Hello and welcome to Saturday Cinema as we look at the peaceful warrior through a metaphysical lens. My name is Beci Rohkohl and this is my husband Phil. Dan Millman is an American author and lecturer on personal development. He wrote the book titled The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. A movie was later created based on the book starring Nick Nolte and Scott Micklewitz. Both the book and the movie are based on actual events that happened during Dan's time as a gymnast with UC Berkeley. Today we'd like to share with you some observations of the movie as we look at the peaceful warrior through a metaphysical lens. Our plot begins. Dan Millman seems to have it all. Good grades, a shot at the Olympic team on the rings, girls lined up, all his teammates, all in envy of him.
After battling sleep one night, Dan jumps on his motorcycle and goes for a drive. This is when he meets an old sage at a local gas station. The older gentleman, who Dan calls Socrates, immediately makes an impression on Dan as someone or something he has not encountered in life. Convinced that Socrates has great abilities and awareness Dan needs, Dan convinces Socrates to take him under his wing to teach him how to achieve such greatness. Socrates shakes up Dan's mind as he questions every assumption Dan has about his life. During a conversation with Socrates, Dan tells Socrates to ask him anything. Socrates responds by asking, "Are you happy?" Dan looks confused. Socrates points out that Dan told him he could ask anything. Dan asks, what does happiness have to do with anything? Socrates responds, everything. It is from here that Dan's education begins.
Socrates tries to impress on Dan that all aspects of life are important and that everything is a practice in finding the way, in finding happiness. Later, during a meal together, Socrates points out that Dan's eating habits are sloppy. Dan again suggests it doesn't matter by saying, "Who cares?" Socrates explains that attitude is the real difference between the two of them. He points out that while Dan practices gymnastics, Socrates himself makes everything he does a practice. In another scene at the park, Socrates helps Dan really look at what's happening in the moment in the park. As time slows to almost stop, Dan begins to see differently. There are people interacting with each other and playing with their pets. Other people are reading, and even bugs going on about their lives. Socrates shows Dan that there are no ordinary moments and that there is always something happening. Dan is not yet willing to accept what his friend is trying to get him to understand. And I love this quote by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Always hold fast to the present. Every situation, indeed every moment, is of infinite value, for it is the representative of the whole eternity.
One day on the way to school, Dan has a terrible motorcycle accident. This changes all of his plans for the future and leaves him depressed and feeling lost. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." Dan has to learn to trust in his new life direction, to find the opportunity in what has happened. As his journey progresses, Dan, in a dream, comes to physically confront himself and realizes there is a part of himself that doesn't serve him well. He looks that part of himself that must be released and says, "It's you. You're the one I have to let go of." This part that must go asks, "Do you know what you're doing?" Dan replies, "No." Many times we find we must release the part that holds us back so that we can move on. Someone I once knew would say that we have to let go of the handrails. This is not too different from what is said in Matthew 5:30. "And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell." Hell comes in many forms, and in Dan's case, it was part of who he was, or really how he saw himself, that kept him in the hell he was experiencing.
As the relationship between Dan and Socrates grows, Dan continues to learn a new way to look at life and to find the truth. Socrates has Dan spend hours in meditation, contemplating what is truly important in life. This is where Dan begins to realize there are no ordinary moments, and there's never nothing going on. Matthew 5:8 says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God."
As Dan's training with Socrates advances, Socrates takes Dan on a hike. They walk a long time climbing a mountain. As Dan gets tired, he asks Socrates how much further they must walk to see that which Socrates has brought him to see. Socrates, seeing Dan is wearing thin, says that they have arrived. Dan looks around in disbelief and asks if the view was what they were there to see. Socrates says no, and picks up a rock from their feet, handing it to Dan and saying it is the rock that he wanted to show Dan. At this point, Dan's a bit upset and starts going on. Socrates points out how happy and excited Dan had been the whole way up the mountain, excited to see this thing that Socrates was to show him. Suddenly it occurs to Dan that it wasn't the thing he was hoping to see that had made him happy. It was the journey to get there that he had truly enjoyed. It's the journey that brings happiness, not the destination.
In the end, Dan's friend and the coaches that Dan feels gave up on him were all amazed at the things he had become. He becomes a friend and a teacher. At a gymnastics meet, one of Dan's friends asks Dan if he can rub a little of his magic on him. Dan explains that all he must do is to let go of all that is holding him back, all that is keeping him from being in that moment, all that is causing him worry about anything other than what he is doing right then. Dan tells his friend that if he will just let go of that part and focus on what is happening in each and every moment, his friend will succeed. His friend rejects the idea. Some of Dan's journey is on his mind. As he turns to perform, he begins to hear Socrates' voice in his head. "Where are you, Dan?" Dan says, "Here." "What time is it?" Socrates says. Dan responds, "Now." And Socrates asks, "What are you doing?" And Dan replies, Socrates asks, "What are you?" And Dan replies, "This moment." It is Ralph Waldo Emerson that said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us."
We hope you've enjoyed looking at the peaceful warrior through a metaphysical lens. We look forward to seeing you next week at Unity of El Cajon's Saturday Cinema. Blessings.